So how you doing?
I'm good.
So have you heard any rumors about football next year?
I haven't. Our school is pretty much still trying to figure out how school is going to work. They they haven't gotten stuff together yet.
Yeah. One of the rumors I heard was they're going to forego having a fall football season and go to spring. If that
Yeah,
happens, that's going to be pretty bad for rugby.
yeah,
But then again, a lot of football players are also on track and field or wrestling or one of the fall sports or spring sports. Who knows?
yeah.
All right. So based on last our last session, um, you wanted to go over a little more over kicking, and so we're going to do a little chatting about Christmas kicking, and then watch a couple what I think are pretty good videos. In fact, I actually watched them and I learned some stuff like, wow, is that true? So let's go back to a quick talk about stuff, and then we'll go watch some videos. Okay, so the punt. We talked about most of these key factors already. Now you notice that Coach Otterbeck talked about when he punts about the way he holds the ball. One of the things that we're talking about rugby, but specifically and importantly about kicking, it's what works best for you. What we'll try to do is give you ideas on good technique, but ultimately it's what works well for you. Just like the tilt of the ball when you kick it. Okay. The kick of the ball when you kick it, how you hold the ball. Like when I punt, I've been taught to hold it at an angle. Although, when Coach Otterbeck did it, he talked about holding it straight out. I've been told to hold it at an angle with a rear hand on top and front hand on the bottom, and hold it like that. So when we talk about these, we're just trying to give you ideas. You go out and practice and determine what is actually the best style for you. Key factors should be pretty much the same. You got to keep your eyes on the ball. You want to hold the ball out in front of you. Step forward, plant the kick, because if you don't, you're not able to follow through, which is a very important part through. Point toe downward at contact. I actually was taught to put it so my foot was almost as flat as can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then follow through with the opposite arm extended. Those are pretty much standard for almost. It's just like passing a rugby ball or passing a football, throwing a football. You got to get the follow through. Big errors. People tend to look up too soon. You want to watch the ball all the way through. When you're doing that, that's one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure you have space around you, because human nature will be such that if you try kicking the ball when someone's rushing to you, are you going to watch the ball or are you going to watch that body that's coming towards you?
Yeah.
And then, trying to kick too far. Anytime you kick, you should have a target in mind. It should not be just, I am going to kick it as hard and as far as I can go and pray.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you kick it, we talked about the term strategic and tactical kicking. You remember the difference between those two?
Sort of.
Okay. Strategic is going for ground. Tactical is to advance the ball beyond the gain line, essentially. So when I do a tactical kick, it's like a grubber. It's like an
Yeah.
up and under. It's a kick that enables me to advance beyond the gain line and advance beyond the first line of defense of the bad guys. A strategic kick is for me to gain territory or to defend, but primarily to gain territory even in a defensive mode. So when you kick it, you're kicking it downfield, but you're kicking it downfield with the intent of getting the ball to go out of bounds, preferably at the bounce. So if it bounces out, line out is way down in the field. You also don't want to kick it to where the best catcher or the fastest guy in the team is, which becomes very important as you start looking at it. Even though you may have a dominant foot to kick, you need to be able to, if you're going to be a team's primary kicker, you need to be able to kick with both feet.
Yeah.
Because if you look down the field and go, oh, him again, I really don't want to kick it to him. So I'll try to kick to someone else. Okay?
Yeah.
And then, again, when we were talking about, remember we talked about, use the term gravity sucks? The ball will always fall at the same speed, 9.8 meters per second squared on most places on the surface of the earth.
Yep.
So what you do is you learn to time it. You just sit there and you watch it, okay? And you sit there and watch it, and then you start integrating your feet into it. And then you determine how long it takes after the ball leaves your hand before your foot has to hit it. Once that occurs, and then you back step it, okay? When do I need to actually move my feet back to start the kick forward? Well, okay, like that. So that enables you to make contact when you want to contact the ball. If you contact the ball closer to the ground, your tendency will be for a longer kick that is lower. But if you kick the ball that is higher, the tendency is to kick the ball higher, but not quite as far. So you learn to time yourself on your kick so that you're able to get about where you want. A good technique we used to use is for learning how to make a target is get some cones and make it a meter box. Left side, a middle, right side, and from different locations on the field, just try to kick it so that it either goes into the box or bounces into the box. So that if you're able to do that, it enables you to better aim the ball. One of the things that I actually had an opportunity to attend a Munster practice when I was touring in Ireland, and I talked to the kicker. And one of the things that he had told me was the hardest part when you're training is to ensure that you can keep the ball within a 5-degree space. You're going straight on and then 5 degrees off that. That's where you want, when you kick the ball, that's where you want the ball to go. All right, drop kicking. As you look at the picture right there, you can't see it by the middle foot. Let's see. Can you see the little hand there moving around?
Yeah.
Okay. You can't see it there, but he's actually going to have to lift his knee up because remember I'm sorry, this is drop kick, not a grubber. He's coming in low. So remember, he wants to kick on the bottom lower third of the ball. Okay, same thing. Watch the ball. Step forward into the kick. Make contact with the ball at the top of the instep, although there are those, again, technique-wise and personality-wise, that prefer to actually have their foot a little flatter so that their toe makes contact. And then, of course, follow through. Follow through is always an important one. And then, of course, you need balance. So make sure that you position your arms however you want, and even if it's going like this, however you want to ensure that once you've made your kick, you're able to maintain your balance and follow through. Okay? Now, when you're doing a drop kick, it is very similar to a standard kick from a tee.
Yeah,
the ball is perpendicular to the ground or a little off, a little angle, and you're still learning to time it so that when the ball is in that perfect position, that millisecond, nanosecond, whatever, when it's on the ground and it's staying, it's not falling and it's not bouncing up, is when you want to make your contact. Taking all the ball, same problem, turning to not contacting correctly on the foot. Again, drop kick is a little personality bound. My experience is for a drop kick that I prefer to kick it about at the where you lace your boots.
Yep.
And your toe in that area. That seems to work best for a drop kick for me. I am not the greatest drop kicker, but again, personality. A grubber kick needs to be held with the ball with two hands, because realistically, when do you use a grubber?
When you're trying to advance the ball fast.
Okay, you're advancing the ball fast, but if you're wanting to advance the ball fast alone, the biggest thing you want to do is run, right?
Yeah.
So why would you integrate a kick as you're advancing the ball?
Because it's easier to get by people when you don't have the ball.
Exactly. Not only that, but are they allowed to hit you?
No, they are not.
Also, if the ball is, you've grubbed the ball and you're following the ball, what must the opposition do to try to get to the ball?
Go through.
I'm running towards you and you just did a grubber. What must I do?
They have to stop and turn around.
Stop and go backwards. Therefore, and you're already going forward, therefore you maintain your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you understand what he means by the short stabbing motion?
Yes.
Okay. That was one of the reasons I asked Coach Otterbeck. That's what I call the snap kick. You raise up your knee and then you flick it out as almost like you're doing one of those karate kicks or something like that from an old bad kung fu movie. You lift up your foot and you snap. Again, follow through. A grubber has to do a few things. First thing a grubber has to do is hit the ground, because if you make it a low kick, it doesn't give you much advantage and it's harder for you to recover. But if you hit the grubber so it hits the ground, it bounces on the ground, it makes it easier for you to recover. One, it's slower. If you kick a ball, it's just a low kick. It's a faster ball than if you kick it, it hits the ground, boom, boom, boom. So you're able to get in there. So you do a ball pickup, it's so much easier if the ball is slow and bouncing as opposed to a ball that is just a low kick. Drub kipping, yep. Kicking into the opponent's legs. That's
That'll stop forward motion.
It certainly will. However, if you have a good someone's coming on to your opposition, they almost never come at you on, or better trained ones don't come at you straight on. How do they come at you?
Slightly from like the side, so.
Coming from the side. So as you're kicking, that may be to your advantage to make sure that you kick straight. If they're coming to you straight on, you kick it off to the side. And remember, when you kick it off to the side, it is a little more difficult to recover. So you got to make that decision at the decision circle where you're going to place the ball. Okay, kicking, the up and under. Okay, an up and under is a tactical kick. Why is it a tactical kick?
It's kind of like a grubber, except instead of going under them, you go over.
That's a good way to put it. I've never thought of it that way, but yes. So if I'm going to have a perfect up and under, how high should it go and how far should it go?
Say like 10, 20 meters in the air. And then like.
Okay, how high should I kick it?
Yeah, like 10 to 20 meters and then 5 to 10 meters forward.
Okay, it would be easier just to think 10 to 10. Why? Okay. You said we kick it 20. If I kick it 20 meters in the air, what does that mean about the ball? How much time is it in the air?
It takes more time to come down.
It takes more time to get up and then come down.
Yeah.
And so as I'm waiting for the ball to come down, I'm just going da-da-da-da-da-da, whistling, chewing my gum, waiting for the ball to come down. What's the opposition player getting ready to do?
Tackle you.
Remember, he can't hit me until I do what?
Catch the ball.
So as soon as I touch the ball, he whacks me. What am I likely to do?
Drop the ball.
Exactly. So let's keep the ball 10 meters up, so it's just above his hands, just above his ability to jump up. Why 10 meters out?
Gives you enough time to get by the opposition and pick it up.
Not pick it up. Remember,
catch it.
Catch it on the run.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we need to focus on in the back line this year is to use tactical kicking, particularly the up and under. Tactical kicking against many of the teams we play, because they will be bigger and stronger and faster than we are. So the best way to slow down a very aggressive defensive line is to kick it behind them, because they have to slow down. Are they going to kick it to us or are they not? All right. Protect the ball. Swing hips into the kick.
Coach, I'll be right back. I need to get my charger for my computer real quick.
All right. Let me pause this. All right, we're recording now. Let's get back to our chart. All right. Problem with the up and under. Remember we talked about it? It doesn't go far enough or goes too far.
Yeah.
And again,
I don't see screen. By the way, I don't see your screen.
You do not?
No.
All right. Let's see. How's that?
There it goes.
Okay. A chip kick. What's a chip kick?
I'm not sure.
Chip kick is actually an up and under, but it's it's far quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What you're trying to do is, remember, as long as the ball is not in your hands, you do not have possession of it. If you do not have possession of the ball, it's more likely or likelier that the opposition can gain possession of it, right? So a chip kick is just something. I'm getting ready to tackle you. I'm getting ready to tackle you, and I'm a skilled enough chip kicker. I don't need 10 meters up because I'm coming in. What's my body position as I'm coming in for the tackle?
It's a lot lower.
I'm sorry?
It's a lot lower.
And where are my hands?
They're down.
Okay, so a chip kick is just a simple up and under that goes over my head, and I'm able to quickly get it again. Okay? And as you can see by the picture, it's essentially the same thing. And you got to be careful on this one, because if you don't kick it, you still have to give yourself space to kick it. Because if you don't, and he's only 2 meters out, you're not going to be able to actually get it over him. You're going to actually kick into him. You don't want to do that. Again, that's why we talk about the decision circle. Also, it's a timing thing that you'll learn to work best for yourself. Drop pump, we won't worry about that one. Place kick. I like the picture that they're showing there. Okay? Steps forward, rear foot's coming. Notice his forward foot is planted in line with the ball. His rear foot is coming through. It goes through the ball. And notice his foot, as he's already starting his follow through. Now, when you do a good follow through on a kick, you should actually have your supporting foot leave the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. It says to find the sweet spot. That is pretty much depending on how you want to position the ball and how you kick. I had an old English rugby coach, and he said, what you have to do is essentially create a dance when you're doing a place kick. And you'll see that. Guys who will step back twice and then step to the side 3 times and do it always. They'll be at the ball and they'll step backwards and they'll step backwards and they'll step to the side. That it becomes part of their dance, because in such a way that he knows how to place his foot so that it is in line with the ball and ensure that he is in a good balanced position to kick through the ball and still be able to follow through. Some people like it short. Some people like it long, but you always have, when you're doing your place kick, always in your mind, create a dance and then practice that dance. Does that make sense?
Yes, coach.
Okay. Part of it, when you create a dance, enables you to focus better. Remember, when you're starting to get tired, you're halfway through the second half. That's about time when your skill sets, and kicking is an important skill set, that's when your skill sets start to deteriorate. So if you have a dance and have some way that you can almost do it by habit that makes you better able to perform the task. So, we're like 4 minutes left and we need a place kick. That's really when I want the place kicker to be able to make the long, accurate kick, right?
Yeah.
Common errors: lifting head, non-kicking too far from the ball, poor follow through, unbalanced finishing position. Yeah, you see that a lot. In fact, it's almost a joke when a prop does it, because what do they normally do? They fall on their butts, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you've never seen that before, huh? Okay, so those are some. Do you have any questions on basic fundamentals before we start watching the videos?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's see where my videos are hiding. We actually have a couple that I think are really good. So we're going to watch a real short one by Survey Rugby, and we'll watch a longer one that's actually has a pretty good talking about the different ways to do kicking. Another short one, another longer one. So let's yeah, we got to have the really cool music. Can you hear?
Yep.
Hey, this has been Gollings. We're back with another series of the breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at kicking, specifically kicking out of hand. Kicking is something that...
Is that better, or is it better to be smaller?
It helps tactically for territory.
Probably smaller.
Okay.
So scoring.
How about that?
Kicking goals, dropouts. Today, though, we're going to look just at out of hand.
That's good.
When warming up, leg swings to warm up the movement, lifting through hamstrings, through quads, the main muscle groups used in the kicking. With the ball, all we're looking at doing is just feeling comfortable with the ball on the foot, swinging the leg through, starting to build up the kick. So
Notice the way that he automatically he's placing his body so that it's balanced and has a follow through.
Football, how they kick a ball there, creates a lot of accuracy. It's an easier kick to perform in terms of the way the ball flies. First thing we look at is how we hold the ball. Shalom here is holding the ball with two hands. He's kicking with his right foot, right hand usually lower down the ball, with the left hand at the top to keep the ball straight. Incredibly important, the drop of the ball. The ball goes to the foot, not the foot coming up to the ball. Second part is Shalom putting the ball on what we call the fence. So he's putting the ball out, and then when we bring our leg through, we'll be kicking through the gate. The whole of our body moving forward. Very important that we...
Okay, so notice two things he was talking about. One, the gate, so the hand is out. And the other one that I thought was very important is the way that he used the term, you're dropping the ball on your foot. You're not bringing your foot to the ball. And when we watch this, it seems to be a really good technique.
We keep our head down over the ball and our body weight kicking through the ball. If we lean backwards and our head back, we're going to end up miscuing the kick. We're looking to connect with the ball, the front part of our foot, just off to the side of the big knuckle on the toe. The legs should go straight through the ball with a good follow through, almost to the point where you're kicking your opposite hand. The second kick we can utilize is the spiral kick. This uses the same action, just a different hold on the ball and a position of the ball. Rather than the ball being held top and bottom and straight up, the ball is held at the back of the ball and out straight, so that as it connects with the foot coming through creates a natural spin on the ball. We're looking to connect with the ball, the front part of our foot, just off to the side of the big knuckle on the toe. It's important to have our hands out ready, because if under pressure we can get the ball away quickly. Today we looked at the two kicks, the drop punt and the spiral kick. Whenever you're learning to kick out of hand, it's always best to start with the drop punt, learn the technique, and then all you're doing is manipulating the ball in order to kick the spiral. Remember to keep head down, Follow through with your leg. Make sure the ball is going to the foot and not throwing the ball up and trying to kick it. This has been another series of the break.
So what did you think of that one?
I liked it. It was pretty simple, but it was like easy to understand, and it's really clear about how.
Yeah, it was, except for it was hard sometimes to understand him, though.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought this was a really interesting one. And this is actually a detailed explanation.
Rugby. The first thing you should know is there are two main types of
Can you see it?
kicking in rugby.
Big green
Yes.
tee.
The kicking
Yeah.
like this, and they strike the ball like this. And you've also got probably the harder method that's becoming a bit more old-fashioned nowadays, which Dan Carter, Johnny Wilkinson, likes of those lot were most renowned for. The first method, however, is a lot easier, and you see it more and more nowadays. And this is what I personally prefer doing. While the second one is a bit different in terms of technique, most of the fundamentals I'm going to be talking about in this video do still apply. The first thing you need to know about goal kicking is setting up the ball correctly on the tee. To a lot of people, it makes no sense to put the ball facing directly upwards or even facing slightly backwards because they think this is the best way to generate backspin on the ball, thus producing a good kick. But rather the opposite is true. You're better off angling the ball forwards because irrelevant of whether you point the ball backwards, forwards or facing directly up, you want to be striking the ball about a third of the way up. So pointing the ball forward actually opens up the sweet spot. So essentially you have less room for error, and this is why we point the ball forwards. And with this technique, you want the ball to be pointing directly down the middle of the posts. Unless, of course, it's windy, in which case you have to take this into account. Different goal kickers prefer to angle the ball different amount forwards.
I once knew a guy that had it almost the top almost touching the ground. That's how much he wanted it.
More distance. From my personal experience, I haven't necessarily found this to be true, but in the same way, I do actually prefer the ball to be quite flat as well. Most kicking tees nowadays are adjustable, and choosing the right height is actually very important in my opinion. If the tee is too high, there's a tendency to hook the ball, which will result in the ball curling. So if I'm right-footed and my tee is too high for me, there's a very high chance the ball will curl right to left. Some goal kickers do this deliberately, actually. Like in the recent Lions tour, you saw Bowden Barrett curl most of his kicks from right to left. Perhaps the tee is a little bit high for him. In the same way, though, a lot of goal kickers curl the ball deliberately, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Jonathan Thurston from the NRL obviously deliberately curls his kicks a lot, and he's one of the most successful goal kickers around. However, in my opinion, you're better off hitting the ball straight and true. So try and get a tee that isn't too high and isn't too low. And ultimately, you've just got to experiment. In the same way, the tee can't be too low because that puts a lot of strain on your leg, which is why the second method I showed at the start of the video, which I'm not going to be talking about, is a little bit different technique-wise. There is no best way to run up to the ball. It's all about being comfortable with it, and once you are comfortable with the run-up, try and keep it as consistent as possible.
Your dance.
The thing I will advise people to do is probably be about 4 to 5 steps away, and try not to be any further, because of course, in a match, from conversions, if you take too long to run up, they can charge your kick down, and this is the last thing you want to happen. So try and keep your run-up short, but in the same sense, have enough so you can actually hit the ball with a lot of venom. You want to be probably about 45 degrees away from the ball in terms of obviously the angle. If you're too straight, there's a very high tendency that you'll just scuff your kick completely because you can't bring your leg back far enough, but we'll discuss that later. And if you're at too much of an angle to the ball, there's a very high tendency to hook the ball and so you curl it, which as you mentioned earlier isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not the best way I believe of kicking it. Connecting the run-up and the strike to the ball is your final stride before you actually smack it. You want this stride to be very, very large, as you can see in these clips, significantly larger than the steps you have previously taken. This is so you can generate enough momentum and try to transfer all of your body weight through the ball. You don't want this distance to be too small because you cannot generate enough power, nor too big, because if it's too big, you can't hit the ball properly as well. It's all about being comfortable, and this is a common theme you'll find through this video. Where your standing foot needs to land should be consistent with every single kick, as this can actually have a bigger effect than lots of people believe to imagine. You do not want your foot to be next to the ball, but in the same way, greater than, 3 of your foot widths away is probably going to be too far. And as I mentioned earlier, just like with your run-up, it's all about being comfortable with this. When you're trying to strike the ball and your standing foot lands, you want to be sort of side on. You'll see it in this screenshot right here. If you're standing right over the ball, it's impossible to get accuracy. Standing in this sort of slanted position is something you shouldn't really think about. Well, you should think about when you're starting, but then it should be very natural. But this is essentially the standing position you want to be in. In terms of the part of the foot you want to be using, you probably want to be using the bone at the end of your big toe. So follow your big toe up your foot and you'll find a really solid bone. This is the hardest part of your foot, and so this is the part you'll be generating the most power with. It's also important to remember that with your ankle, as you approach the ball to kick, or when you make the strike rather.
How do you like that body position?
Down, this generates the biggest arc, so you can generate most power.
A bit twisted.
Look at those legs.
Yeah.
Now I can actually get on with talking about the fundamentals of the actual strike of the ball. I mentioned earlier you want to be striking the ball probably about a third of the way up. Depending on how you've angled your ball on the tee, I've marked on the screen the part of the ball you want to be striking. You want to hit the ball at exactly this height, because if you hit it any higher, you will not generate enough backspin. And you have to generate backspin because otherwise the ball will not stay in the air long enough, nor fly with a straight trajectory over the posts, which is obviously exactly what you want to achieve. In the same way, it can't be too low, because if you hit it too low, you generate too much backspin, and in the same way, you don't get a very good power transfer, as most of your energy has gone in spinning the ball as opposed to generating distance. After your large stride to the ball, and your foot has landed, you obviously are drawing your other leg back. You draw the leg back too far, and you really snatch at the ball, and you can't generate enough power, but in the same way, you have to bring your leg back far enough for you to get a good kick. A lot of people think this is how you generate power, similar to how a golfer will swing his club. In my opinion, it's not that simple. The drawing your leg back should just be a very comfortable process, and should be a very fast one too. So focus more on speed rather than the distance at which you bring your leg back. Most importantly, after you hit the ball, is the follow through and the weight transfer. This is the most important part of the kick, because even if you scuff your strike or something's wrong with your technique, if your body weight is moving towards the post, this is the most powerful force, and will obviously see your kick go in that very direction. After you've struck the ball, the first thing you want to focus on is raising your leg and quite literally pointing your foot towards your target. In the same way, you also want to land past the tee. If you don't transfer your weight and finish beyond the tee, then it means you aren't transferring all of your body weight, and so are not producing maximum momentum. This obviously puts a lot of strain on your lower leg, and ultimately hinders the distance you can get on the ball. So it's incredibly important to finish past the tee. You don't necessarily have to finish past the tee though. This slow motion replay of Owen Farrell shows that he just raises his leg. What you'll also see is he's generated the ability to transfer all of his body weight without having to go past the ball. If you look at his left leg, you can see his heel raises slightly off the ground, which indicates all of his weight is going through his right leg and obviously through the ball. Conversely, in this replay of Elliot Daly, who's a very long range distance kicker, further than Farrell, you can see he finishes past the ball, but his follow-through isn't that great. So for you, it's all about finding a balance. Something that I tried to do when I was first learning how to goal kick, and I'm not an amazing goal kicker by any account, I've still got lots of things to improve on, but I always tried to emulate George Ford. He's not the best goal kicker, and he strikes the ball completely differently. But this is irrelevant. What I want you to focus on is what he does after he struck the ball. If you look at Ford, after he struck the ball, he keeps his head down, and the same way, he also runs forwards towards the posts. This means he's ensuring he's transferring all of his weight. And it's also very important to keep your head down, because this is the position you are strongest in. Running where the ball goes also forces your leg to point towards your target. If you run somewhere, your leg's lifting up and landing. This is the exact thing you want to happen. When you struck the ball, you want your foot to land past the ball and the ball will go there. Individually, all of these pointers are very straightforward and fairly easy to perfect, in fairness, but putting them all together in one kick is immensely difficult, and producing this consistently is exactly the same. Ultimately, it's all down to practice, and with goal kicking, in my opinion at least, skill is pretty much irrelevant. If you can do these stages well, you're set to go, irrelevant of whether you've got strong legs or just a good striker on the ball in general. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's my first time I've done a sort of a speaking video, so let me know what you think of it, and I hope this gave you a good understanding as to how you strike a rugby ball off the tee well. This is a video explain.
So what did you think of that one?
It's a lot of information, but I really liked it. Like it was very detailed, and like for me who tries to know about place kicking, that video just was really helpful, and
Did you like the way that he manipulated the video? So you can actually slow down and went backwards and forwards to actually see the placement of your feet, the placement of your legs, the angle of your body. Was that useful also?
Yeah.
Rugby bricks is considered a good one. All right, let's just get back to some more general kicking.
Scoop foot. So when we're drop kicking the ball, the one thing we want to avoid is trying to scoop our height with the drop kick. Make sure that we keep our foot strong, let their ball bounce, keep our foot and leg nice and
So
straight.
this video, he's going to just use a lot of little technique type things.
Powerful, strong body. Try to scoop the ball, that's when we lose all our momentum, all our power.
Do I need to turn it up? Can you hear it?
Stay strong. Get up to it.
It's good.
So the common thing you always hear from your coaches is keep your head down when you're kicking. And that is true, but for me the better cue is keep your nose over your toes. So your toe is your plant foot. So for me it's
Nose over toes.
with my right. As long as my nose stays over my plant foot toes, I'm in a positive position. Every time I kick, I'm staying positive and over those nose over toes. As soon as my nose breaks back, and I'm leaning back, you can see there it's a really easy cue. Now my nose is no longer over my toes. That's all it is. We don't have to be here keeping our head down. Just keep your nose over your toes. Okay, the high ball catch in rugby is actually really similar to a basketball layup. So the same way that we want to try and create a small angle to attack the ball, it's much easier in a high ball situation to attack it from an angle than be directly under it. So the same thing as the basketball layup, give yourself a little bit of an angle and you'll be able to attack the ball a lot more and be in a better position to catch the ball. Right,
Also, the other advantage of being at an angle is that obviously you can force it backwards.
Just a touch. When I'm going to try and chuck up the spiral block, it's really important that I keep my kick the same. So I don't want to try and actually make the ball spiral, pull away, try to get that spiral effect. If I just keep my foot nice and strong in front of the legs, the ball's going to do the work and get a nice result. See what it looks like. It's massive. Hot tip when you've got your RB Vortex tee, if you fold it over for when you're traveling, sort of like that, when you put it in your bag, it's going to stay nice and in shape. That way when you pop it back out, she's going to be beautiful. Back to it.
Actually, I've not seen us use a type of, very many teams in our league use that type of tee.
Bag like that. When you come back to it, she'll be perfect. So whenever you're kicking for touch or kicking for a target in the distance, always try to offset yourself about 30 degrees. So if this line here is my line of target where I want to kick the ball through the post, it doesn't matter whether I'm aiming for touch, downfield, or whatever the target is, I want to offset myself 30 degrees. So for me, that looks like this. So I'm kicking from this blue cone, offset myself 30 degrees from there. From here, I'm just going to cover, make the kick to the target. And the ball ends up straight. So when you're kicking for touch, doesn't matter where your target is, offset your chest 30 degrees from there, and then execute the kick. How do I get more power and distance in my kick is a pretty common question that comes up. Quite often we see a lot of kicking drills that are really small, really frontal. We're just working on that knee flick, so all that's happening, just getting really good at just knee flicking from the knee joint. What we need to use is this big butt that we've got. So we're actually going to keep that extended, get this glute firing, and use all that big back lift, and put some pressure through that ball. So in this drill, set your ball up on your kicking tee. All you're going to do is just set up your front foot, keep your rodeo arm up nice and tall as well. We're going to practice getting that extension. It's actually quite a hard position to hold. The shoulders on and this big strong glutes firing for every kick. So we're actually going to extend, get more distance in our kicks purely just by using this booty, getting big, getting powerful through that ball. Hey guys, just make sure when you go kicking that your balls are pumped up. Reason being is if your balls are too flat, your foot's going to actually stay on this ball for way too long. It means you're going to hook all your kicks. So pump up your balls, have them at a really good pressure, and you'll have a much better kicking session. Okay, so we've got the 3 balls set up on 3 of the RB Vortex mid cuts. This one here is really flat. Now I tend to find that when you have too flat a ball, you get a big punch up the back of the ball compresses and we get that really ugly wobbly kick. It's hard to control, can go either way if you get it wrong. Now when the ball's too upright, we tend to get a lot of backspin on the ball. the really fast backspin that takes the ball up and we lose a bit of distance and clean strike. For me, I like to have the ball sitting on about the 45 degree, which is over here on this yellow tee. Means that I still promote that backspin, but I get so much more punch behind the ball, slower backspin, and I can fly the ball how I want to fly the ball. So when we're doing our ball drop, our foot's actually outside our centre line. So if this is my centre line, I actually want to push the ball out to my right foot where I'm kicking, out here my right hip. So when we're doing our ball drop, I actually want to give a bit of momentum to it, place it out there, and let that ball drop straight.
Remember, he's talking about the ball to your foot, not your foot to the ball.
Yeah.
The ball's got a bit of momentum behind it. Last one, straight ball from your midline, push it out. It's dropping beautifully and perfectly straight with that big strong right foot. I hope you guys know which way you have your ball valve sitting when you set your ball up on your tee. So for me, I always have that valve facing down just to give the ball some balance. If we have this valve on the side, you'll actually notice that the ball wobbles in the air when you kick it. So it doesn't matter whether it's on the bottom or the top of the ball, but you've got to make sure that every time you set that ball up on the tee, you always have the exact same spot to build consistency when you're kicking it. So just like a floppy handshake is really weird, having a floppy foot is just as bad. So when we're kicking the ball, we need to get our foot in a really hard, strong position. It's called plantar flex. So with my foot, instead of having a really floppy foot down here, I actually want to lock it up, get nice and strong with that foot, expose that big hard bone.
Yeah, you don't want that floppy foot.
Really get up the back of the ball. So don't want any floppy foot. So I've got a big headwind coming at me and I'm kicking into a strong breeze. Now with my ball, I quite often see kickers really flatten it out. As we know, if we flatten out our ball too much, we get a big punch up the back of the ball, ugly ball flight, and it doesn't work. What you can do is you can just drop it a touch, but what I want you to think about is your momentum and actually punching through with your full body after the ball. So when we go into our kicking motion, I'm actually going to get through this kick. It's more important for me now to take my whole pillar from my knees through to my chest, through the ball and get everything punching through the ball. That way your ball's going to stay low, it's going to stay nice and low into that wind and get the result we want. So what's the best way to set yourself up at the back of your mark? So once you've got your ball set up on your tee, once you're actually back here in this kicking position, I've seen a lot of people on a lot of different variations. So the 1 foot forward, sideways, the hands up. For me, when I'm learning to kick and trying to keep things simple, I like to have my feet at the back of the ball, my hips at the back of the ball, and my chest at the back of the ball. So all of my being, all of my momentum is always going towards the back of the ball. So that when I approach, it's the same, it's simple and consistent every time that I'm making my approach. From there, once you've got confidence, then happy for you to play around with your feet, the step back, body angles, all those other things.
So what did you think of that one?
It was good. It was a lot of different just tips to think about. So,
well, as I said, and you'll see that that was a theme so far in all three of the videos. We'll give you good ideas, but ultimately it's going to be what's most comfortable for you.
Yeah.
We've got one more small one.
Okay.
5 meters up to take the lead for South Africa. What drama? The drama will tell you.
What an absolutely perfect kick by Pat Lambie. Now, it's going to take you years and years of practice before you get to this point. But today I'm going to be showing you the 5 pillars of a successful place kick, taken from various clips on YouTube so you can hear it in pros. Enjoy.
So step 1, line it up. Get the ball, must line it up directly to the middle of the uprights. Lean the ball slightly forward to expose the sweet spot. This is about a quarter of the way up the back seam. After moving back to begin your run-up, you need to be relaxed, so take a few deep breaths. Before you move back into your kick, you're relaxed and you need to focus. One way to do this is use key words and phrases, like head down, follow through. Before moving in to kick the ball, try using imagery. This means playing a movie in your head of kicking, with the ball sailing through the post.
That's a visualization technique we talk about.
Find a target.
Yeah.
Me, I like to find a person in the crowd who I want to kick the ball to.
Now we've got the sort of fundamental here. We're going to look at aiming. And what I'd like you to do is to picture a spot right in the middle of the post. If you fix that target in your mind and really look at it, and then come back to the ball, you'll still see it in your mind's eye without looking at it, and then you're going to be right on the line.
When you start dealing with, what if I miss, and this will do this, and this will mean we win the game, you start dealing with the outcome, you miss the bit in the middle. The bit in the middle, if you're not fully focused on it, you don't link the chain right, then the final link that you're after is going to be miles away. And as you come in, stay nice and tall and nice and big. You want to roll in with a nice comfortable pace. As you arrive with the ball, you want the ball to be underneath your midriff and be using this part of your foot in and driving this part of the ball. So as you arrive, nice and big, chest up, big planting step. Look to drive that part of the ball with this part. This position here, I'm thinking to myself, I need to be up tall, not too hunched, because then you don't really get much leg swing through. Whereas being up, you have a lot more range, so a lot more power. That's one thing I'm thinking about here, right here. And then the second is, as I'm making contact with the ball, that I'm taking my weight right through the ball. That's where you get your power, that's where you get your accuracy, by getting through the ball beyond the tee, so the kick goes where you want it to go.
Turn your non-kicking shoulder side onto the target. The non-kicking arm is the head of the body, drawing the non-kicking shoulder forward so that you're side onto the ball.
As Jerry's coming in to strike the ball, Jerry's support foot, as you can see, he has roughly the ankle ball roughly in line with the kicking tee, so he's nice and stable on his support foot. His kicking foot will be coming through with the toes pointed down and away from the ankle, down towards the ground, getting a nice solid contact from the big toe right up the bony part of the inside of the foot and towards the top. And as he comes through that ball, his weight will shift through the kick where he'll finish ahead of the tee, which shows that his weight has followed through and the ball will follow the line of strike and should guarantee a perfect result every time.
The key to a successful kick is placing your non-kicking foot in line with the target. It must be hip width apart from the ball and aligned to the target. Any changes in these two factors are the main causes of inaccurate kicking.
First we look at foot placement of the plant foot. Just looking to be first shoulder width apart, away from the ball, and the plant foot being up alongside the ball. You don't want it back, because then by the time you've made contact with the ball, this allows for a little bit of rotation. Whereas if you're up alongside, by the time you've made contact, you're bringing your legs straight through the ball. So just looking at the strike of the ball, we're looking to be in this sort of position, plant foot up alongside.
He's a great kicker, but not a very good instructor, huh?
What we want to be in is foot to be flat, almost like this, not up like that, but more flatter. That just allows for more of a surface area to connect with the ball. Once you've made contact with the ball, you're looking to really take your weight through the ball, not stopping. So not stopping, because once you stop, you can't have that rotation, whereas if you're coming into the ball and you're taking your weight through the ball, that just allows that ball to go on the line that you want it, rather than pulling it to the left.
And as you hit it, you want to finish beyond the ball, taking your body weight towards the target, and it's nice and tall towards the goal. And therefore, hopefully, it should look something like this.
Okay, so any questions? Was this a good session for you to learn stuff?
Yes, it was. I really liked it. Watch it. I like the videos that you used.
Give me a second to turn this off.
Goal kicking is a really simple task. Kick the ball through.
Okay. Yeah. Again, like I said, all our sessions are recorded. I haven't uploaded the last few, but they're recorded so that you can actually go back next year or when we start up again and you can actually review these. So that's a good thing. What would you like our next session to be?
It's a good question. I don't know.
How about patterns of play?
Sure.
You know what patterns of play mean?
Yes.
Okay. Let's make sure that we are saying the same thing, because I've discovered that many coaches and many teams use the term pattern of play to mean different things. So when you say patterns of play, what do you mean?
I don't know how I would explain it, but I don't know.
Okay. The way I would define patterns of play is, if I am on this location of the field and this is what's happening, this is what I would normally do. So if you have a line out behind your 22, what are you likely to do?
Kick it.
Okay. But the whole pattern of play is you first have to get the ball. So are you going to do a quick line out to the front or to the rear of a line out? You're behind the 22.
The front.
Oh, no. What I'm asking is, are you going to do a quick line out to the first man in the line out?
No.
Okay. So what are you likely to do? What are you going to want to do?
You want to set it up first, and then.
Okay. So basically, we're going to use a pod, probably the first pod, catch the ball, bring it down, and then establish a strong maul. Why do I want to establish a strong maul?
So you protect the ball.
We protect the ball and ensure that the kicker is in position. Okay? And then get a ball. So that's a pattern of play. This location here is all the steps that we use. If we are within 5 meters we're in a scrum 5 meters of the goal line, what is the first thing that we're going to try to attempt? And we can't do it in youth rugby because we're only 1.5 meters. But
drive the scrum.
Yeah, try to drive the scrum. But what are some of the things that we could do?
8-man can take it. And we can.
Okay, so 8-man takes it and he'll get tackled. Okay, and then from there a ruck forms. What's the next thing that we would do?
We could either keep pounding it with the forwards or pass it out to the backs and.
Okay, but what's our little code word for that? What do we say?
I'm blanking.
Punch out.
Yeah.
So whatever we do 2 punches to force them in, and then we get the ball out because we've drawn in their defenses. Again, patterns of play. All right, I'll set something up with patterns of play. I found it hard to find videos that talk about it, but I'll see if I can.
Okay.
You know of any? That's cool. All right. Next week, same bat channel, same bat time, and we'll talk patterns of play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Bye.